Okay, this is a big moment for the podcast. Well, honestly, Dan, it's a big moment for me, mate. I've told you off air. I've told our listeners beforehand. If I had to pick any Australian athlete, and I'm talking any, and I'm not making this up because he's sitting right here with us, but if I had to pick one Australian athlete to interview, it'll be Peter BOL.
Yeah, you're fanboying hard.
And he's fucking here. Yeah. We've got him. How are you, Pete? Good to have you on the show, mate.
Mate, I love the hype. I love the energy, and I'm happy to be in the show.
Like, I feel like you don't really need much of an introduction, but our listeners probably do need, you don't, but Peter BOL, 800-metre runner, he's had quite a journey to get here. Sudan via Egypt to Australia, started running pretty late, figured out he could run pretty fast, and found himself in a couple of Olympic Games. And the story doesn't finish, but most recently you would have seen Pete run in the Olympic final over in Tokyo with a 4th place finish. But Pete, I'm going to wind it all the way back to the start. But all of our guests we've had on so far, and we've had some big names, not as big as you, but the first question we always ask them, and this will get you off guard a little bit, I want to hear your best sporting achievement, not on the athletics track. So you can't use
no running.
You can't use your sport of choice. I don't want to hear you came 4th in the Olympic Games, mate. Like,
doesn't count.
Who cares?
Doesn't count for nothing here.
Give me your best sporting achievement, not on the track.
I've got a few. So I guess I'd say I went to school on a basketball scholarship, so that's a good one.
Okay.
Here we go.
I was dunking when I was in year 10, and I'm not even 6 foot, so that's another one. And I guess this is on the track, but high jump, I didn't know how to do the Frosby flop, and I would scissor kick 180.
How tall are you, Dan?
I'm 165, I reckon.
He's Frosby flopping your ass.
Yeah. You need to teach me how to dunk, man. I need to learn how to get some more hops.
I don't think I'm the best person right now. I think I've been running too much. I don't know if I can get up there anymore, but
Pete,
we can have a go. We can have a try.
Have you played cricket, Pete? Have you played much cricket while you've been over here?
Honestly, that's the only sport I probably have never played.
Well, you're in good company there, mate. You want to tell him? Or you want me to?
Look, I've been copping a bit of flack lately for bringing up my. As you can see, there's a cricket trophy here. That's my under 12s from Chute Hill Cricket Club, one of the best clubs going around in Perth. 5 wickets for 16 runs, and that's the ball from that's the ball. It was in a final, so that's my sporting achievement. I could talk footy, basketball. I've won a championship playing basketball in men's D grade at Warwick Leisure Centre.
It's good, man.
So I've lots of sports. Well, you've got a bit of a claim to fame with sports, not in footy, of course.
Well, mine, like I've got a few like Pete. We just us athletes. We have a few multifaceted. Look, I've got a couple under 8. So I was a state champion in the 80-metre hurdles. I haven't rolled that one out before. I was state champion.
You brought that up.
I have. Okay. Look, I used to be an 800-metre runner. I don't know if I've told you that before, which is why I'm very happy.
What time did you run?
Look,
here we go.
All right, everyone, me and Peter just going to talk times, guys. 153, but I was 17, so I got down.
Oh, you ran 153?
Yeah, that's good, right? Hey, is it all right?
He's being nice.
That's good. Honestly, I started running when I was 17, and I was running about 205, 206. So he was faster than me when he was 17.
Okay, so what you've just told me and our listeners, Pete, I could be the greatest in the world right now. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying put 10 years.
Okay.
And you might be the Australian record holder.
Okay, good. All right, so yeah, so we are talking to the Australian record holder of the Olympic of the 800 metres, who have just said, "Oh, that's pretty good." About my time down.
Of course, he's going to say it's not. He's a nice guy. Look at him.
I've got so many. So I'm very excited. I've got so many questions for you, mate. I want to start with, though, before we get into your story, you're a footy fan. I hear you're a footy fan.
Yeah.
Who's your team?
Yeah, I love the West Coast. That's
good.
That's my team, West Coast.
Good.
But moving to Melbourne, I just got into footy in general, and then I was actually hanging out with a leader on the weekend, so a friend of mine.
Oh, true.
So, but yeah, definitely West Coast fan.
Am I allowed to ask? Look, you can just tell me no, I'm not allowed to ask, and I don't care. But am I allowed to ask about your cousin? Is it your cousin? Am I allowed to ask about that?
You know what? I was thinking if I was there live, I would bring him with me today. So yeah, go ahead.
Talk me through it. I mean, we speak a fair bit about the AFL. It was reported that your cousin was the streaker in the grand final. Is that correct?
Yeah, but you know what? Let's just get. I wasn't even in the country, so um, I have no idea why my name was thrown out there
Yeah,
because I
correct.
wasn't even in the country.
Correct.
I was actually in London. I was actually in London at the time.
He was using you as inspiration, though, surely.
But I don't think he was. Oh, I guess so. And the funny thing is they were saying that he had more crowd than Tokyo, which is actually kind of true. 'Cause-
He's running in front of more people.
He needed to run faster than you. All right, mate. So that's out of the way. Talk to me about. I want to get into your journey a little bit. You know, I guess it's not your. It's certainly not like my story. You know, growing up in Australia and private school and pretty much everything given to me that I ever asked. You started in Sudan. You're born in Sudan, and you sort of made your way here, mate. Tell me about how that all came about and what that was like in coming to Australia.
I did go to a private school too, though. So,
Good.
so maybe I had the best of both worlds. Yes, I was born in Sudan. I think this story's been heard so many times, but it's still reported wrong so many times. Like you see the dates, they just don't add up sometimes. So
What's wrong?
I was there
Tell me
for
what's
6
wrong.
years. I was there for 6 years, and then moved to Egypt for another 4. So I was in Australia by the age of 10, and I was in Toomba, a little town in Queensland. That's where I got into sports, a bit of rugby league. No footy really. They were all into rugby. And then I moved to Perth in 2008. So when I was in high school, so I started there. Then I moved to Melbourne probably at the age 20 when I was in 2015, and then now like I'm everywhere. So yeah, it's crazy journey because I don't have a place that I kind of call home. So I've just called myself a global citizen because I'm 2 months in Perth, 5 months in Melbourne, and how many a month overseas.
You got a big family? You close to your family?
I'm sure you saw on the TV. Yeah,
Yeah.
got a massive family. I've got 4 brothers and 1 sister. That's just immediate family, and then I've got a lot of extended family. But once in our culture, everyone's family, everyone's uncle and auntie, everyone's cousins. So
Yeah.
that's how it works.
So when you reflect on kind of, I kind of agree with you. I'm sure everyone asks you the same stuff about where you're from, how was that journey along the way? But when you reflect about some of the lessons you learned, some of the experiences you went through, how does that reflect on you as an athlete? Like back the other way, like how is kind of how you were brought up turned into what you are on the aths track?
I guess mentally because we're just I'm just resilient because you've been through so much. So like losing a race on the track is not a big deal, or like you just tend to brush things off pretty fast because you come up from a tough upbringing and you come up from a world where you just kind of all you rely on is people and stuff like that. So I guess that kind of worked pretty well. So like I remember just kind of starting athletics when I was 17, and I would see some of the kids training there and that they want to be there and their parents were forcing them there, and I'm like why are you there then? Like just don't rock up. Or like I think there was one point I see one of the parents like bring them Powerades and water and whatever, and I'm like, damn, must be nice, like like I'm out here catching buses to the track and whatnot. So it's kind of just different lifestyle. So like what's taken for granted here, I tend to see it more of an opportunity because we didn't have it.
So
If
then,
that makes any sense.
what really drove you then as a 17-year-old when you see people, obviously just getting lifts and Powerades and waters and stuff like that, and then the other end you're seeing kids that don't want to be there.
They were giving him water.
Yeah, yeah. But
That one's free. That one's free.
that was free. But then, like so when you're 17, like there's not. You're not really. I remember being a 17-year-old, not really motivated to do much. But like, what really drove you then to stay around and commit to athletics at that age?
I guess opportunities and winning. I was like addicted. Like I grew up with four brothers, so everything was pretty competitive. And once I started winning, it gets addictive. Like you want to win. So I won school. I wanted to be the fastest in the school. I wanted to be the fastest boy at all the schools, and then I wanted to be the fastest in the state, the fastest in the country. And you just keep entertaining those different thoughts, and then you're like, man, I might actually be able to do it, but you never really know until you kind of keep going. So that was that. And then number two was literally I never really got into running until like the Olympics, which is 5 years after I started. Like I was like, damn, maybe I might be pretty good. Because before that, I was just like, man, I could use running to kind of travel. Like we didn't have no family holidays and stuff like that. So like I went to Sydney for States. I was like, man, this is dope. Like if I can go back to train again. And then 2015, I went to Paris to compete in a few races in Europe. And I was like, man, that's kind of nice. Like I'd never get to travel again. And like, although running still wasn't the sport that I wanted to be in, but it got me to go different places. So I was like, man, I'm gonna just use it. And then eventually I actually fell in love with it. So it worked out pretty well.
We I mean, there was a lot of Olympic coverage back here in Australia while you're in Japan, and we saw a fair bit of your teacher and the stories around her effectively teaching you everything you know about running. But I know I've heard you speak about that before. I did want to ask the individual element of running. Do you get that team element when you sort of decide to go down the running path? How does that work with you? Do you feel like it's an individual sport, or is there team elements to it?
I guess that's why it was pretty boring at the start, because it just felt like you're running laps around circles by yourself, because it didn't feel like a team sport. And then 5 years later, you're at the Olympic Games, and then you got a team, you got a training club, you got a coach, you got a manager, and it's like, oh, this is more of a team. And then 10 years later, athletics is so unique because it's such a multicultural sport. For any country, that's why it's so competitive, because anyone can run. You just need a pair of shoes. Actually, you don't even need shoes to run. So that's why it gets super competitive at the Olympics. And that's why we say when you compare athletics to other sports, it's pretty hard. When, for example, when you have assuming you take the whole continent of Africa out of it, there's not many people there swimming for medals.
Yeah.
But when you go to running, you've got South America, you've got Africa, you've got every single continent. So it's unique, and in that way, you get to meet everyone from across the world, and it's man, and then it becomes a team, because even the people you're competing against, I was after the Olympics, I went back to Europe, and after I finished competing, you just which friends do I have? I had a friend from the UK. I called him. I said, let's go to Portugal on a holiday, and then we just went to Portugal on a holiday. Had a different friend. We went and meet them. So then it becomes more of a team sport.
Yeah, that's cool.
You were just saying how sort of anyone can run. All you need is a pair of shoes, and actually you don't. I mean, there's people that are like the barefoot runners and stuff. Do you have experiences then when people want to challenge you to runs? Because I can run and you can run, and there's probably, I'm sure there's guys and girls out there that see you and I reckon I could beat him. Do you get challenged to races just by regular people?
No, sometimes, but not in not just randomly in the middle of the street or something like that. But yeah, sometimes people do challenge you, and then you just, it's hard to explain. I'm not just gonna race you for no reason. What's the purpose to this? We're just gonna run. It sounds pretty silly.
To win. You just said you love winning, Pete. To win, mate. Just beat everyone.
Yeah, but what's on the line? What's on the line?
Just bragging.
If someone wants to challenge me to a race, there's bragging right for who? So
yeah,
it's already bragging rights for them.
Yeah,
it's already bragging rights for them. So what's in it for me?
Yeah, you've got everything to lose, and some random dude at the pub.
Exactly.
Dude, I beat Peter BOL in a race. You wouldn't believe it, but I did.
Although actually, speaking of that, in Portugal, I did race someone on a night out, and
yes,
and I think it was 2 a.m. and we're out, and some random just wanted to challenge me, and man, I blitzed them.
Tell me about that. I'm going to ask you about another race. I'm more interested in this race. 2 a.m. Portugal. Tell me about it.
Nah, and to be honest, I don't even think it was a guy. It was a girl, and I just smashed her. But other than that, you just kind of have fun with it. But if someone's challenging you, you're not trying to slow down and stuff like that. Kids always try to challenge you as well, so you kind of got to look at their energies. you don't want to destroy their confidence, but you also don't want to treat them like kids and spoil them. Like
You don't want to lose.
if they seem competitive, then you gotta give it to them. Like you don't want to lose. Like I remember, and my friend always held me. My friend always got on me for this. But one time I was at the basketball court and some kid said, "I'm gonna beat you," and I said, "No, you're not." And he said, "Well, if I beat you, you give me $50." I said, "Well, then what's in it for me?" And he had a Kobe Bryant jersey. Lakers my favorite. I said, "Well, if I win, I take your jersey, and if you win, I give you $200." And up to 11, and you start on 9. And I beat him, and I took his jersey home. And this kid was like, I think, and I still have that jersey in Melbourne. And this kid just woke up with no jersey. Yeah, like I was like, I kind of felt bad, but I said, man, this kid's gonna learn somehow.
That's a fair bet. That's a life lesson learned for the young fella. Learn, young fella. I wanted to...
Only because he was so arrogant too.
Very good.
Pete BOL out there just teaching blokes lessons. Like, tell you challenge me. I wanted to get my fanboy on a bit, Pete, and talk about the 800-meter race, like the actual race, right? For Dan and for listeners, the 2-minute mark, right? When you're a youngster, the 2-minute mark is kind of like... It's not like a hat-trick in cricket, but it's kind of like that mark where... Pete probably never had this actually because he was probably just like sub 2 like the whole time. But 2-minute is like you just want to get under 2, you want to get under 2, you want to get under 2, and then when you do it, you just start stripping off the time, right? But you can never get under 2; it's really hard to. Do you remember getting under 2 minutes, Pete? Am I talking shit or is this a thing? This is a thing, right? Or am I just making this up?
I did get under 2 after 3 months of training, and
that's good. It took me like, I don't know, 12 years or something. That's good.
but you know what? Because being so naive on times and running, like, to be honest, I started running 10 years ago. And like, I kid you not, there's a race on YouTube, I think it was maybe 2011. I started running and I think I ran the first 500 to 600 meters of the race in lane 2 because I thought you had to stay in lane 2 where you started. Like that was 10 years ago. So I was not concerned about no time. I was concerned about nothing. I was just concerned about winning because I figured if you're winning, surely you go somewhere. I didn't really know much about timing. But like, how crazy is that? Like that's 10 years ago. And then 10 years later, we're racing for gold against the best in the world. And like 10 years before that, I'd even run the 800 properly.
Yeah, well, but are you racing against guys? They've been racing since they were 10 years old, right? Like most of the guys you're racing with professionally, they're lifelong athletes, I'm assuming.
Some are, and maybe I'm not sure about everyone's story, but yeah, generally everyone starts pretty early. But at the same time, I don't take credit from that because I think I started sports pretty early. It's not like I started sports in 2011.
Yeah.
I was playing basketball. I was pretty active before that. So like I had that natural endurance. It's just like some cultures just do other things better than others. Like I was saying, if I started swimming 10 years ago, I wouldn't be at the Olympic final. There's no chance. It's a bit different.
You might, mate. You never know.
What was
Eric
it?
Eric Beanie, mate. Eric the Eater.
I definitely know. I could put a bet on that.
What? All right. How about this one? Can you explain to listeners and tell the guys watching on YouTube what does running an 800-meter race feel like? Like, explain what that's like and why it's different to any other race.
Well, one, it depends on your fitness, and it depends so much.
No, you.
Oh, for me?
Not Dan.
For me,
not Dan running 800.
I could run 800. Whatever, 2 minutes. Yeah, let's do it.
Man, it's real nice, man. Especially when you're fit, you just kind of breathe. Like those Olympic semifinal and heats. They were just like, I didn't know I was running that fast. That's why I was slowing down. If I knew I was running that fast, I would have tried to run 143. Like, because think about it. There's no one in the Australian history period that's run under 144, and I'm out there slowing down, running 144s. So like, once you get into that position, once your body is like all like, just muscle memory, and you're just in motion. You don't even know how fast you're running. It just becomes art, and you're just like, wow. And you're just kind of flowing, and it's so nice. It's
like 800s are like a pretty fluctuant in the times you run. Like you can pop out a 147 depending on what the race you're in. Like it is dependent on the race, right? And who's around you. You can't just go and do your own thing in these races. David, take it from there. Like it's not just a pure race, right?
I think before I cut you off, you're gonna say David Radesha,
Yeah,
and
I
David
was. Yeah.
Radesha was the only man in the 800. And I see you did your research, but you did run 153, so you know running.
Mate,
But
David
David Radesha was the only
Radesha,
man that.
he's the GOAT, mate. 141, the only man in history, like the greatest 800-meter race of all time, 2012 London Olympics. I don't need to do my research. This is muscle memory for me, mate. I'm an 800 runner. This is it. David Radesha, he's the king, the GOAT. Look him up.
The goat. He's the only man that could dictate a race win a race from start to finish. Like
Yeah.
when David Radesha was running, everyone else was running for second, and it was just like no one was gonna bet on that. Like David Radesha was gonna win, but now it's quite tactical, and in a way, no one wants to lead the race, and it really depends. Like how was the final the slowest race of the Olympics? Well, the heat and the semifinal we ran pretty fast, but in the final it's quite tactical because everyone waits for that kick at the end. So yeah, it depends who's. So in my heat and semi, and we just from knowing your competition, I knew I had two front runners, so I knew they were going to be pretty fast, and I knew they were going to go straight to the front. So I just had to slot in. But in the final, we had no front
Wait.
runners.
I want to talk to you properly about the final in a little bit. I'm going to get there. Let's just give a little teaser there for our listeners. I want to before we get to the Olympics, right? You obviously have to go start racing professionally, not only here in Australia but head to Europe. I think you made the move to Melbourne under coach Justin Rinaldi. Is that right?
That's correct.
What was that move about, and what's he been able to do for your running, but probably your life as well? I'm assuming you're pretty tight with your coaches as an athlete.
Yeah. The move with Justin was perfect. It's just because, when I was in Perth, I was running 146 at the time, and the second fastest person was running 151. Yeah, it was getting boring, and just I wasn't motivated, and like to be honest, I just thought I could probably go do something else. So I had to make the move, and Justin was training Alex Rowe, who was Australian record holder at the time, and what a better idea to go train with the best at their home ground and just get away from all distractions. I was quite young, and I had a bunch of friends, and it was just you kind of get distracted, and it was just easy to get distracted because you're winning races. Like even if I wasn't running 146, if I was running like 149s, I'd still be winning by 2 seconds, whatever it was. So I had to kind of go east, and also it's super expensive to go east and compete all the time. So it just made it easy. And Justin, hands down, the best 800-meter coach. So I just went down there for a training camp, and I got along really well. And as you said before, it's more the relationship with the coach rather than just the coaching itself. Like we hang out. I remember one time I went with Justin to Florence with his wife, and we went for 10 days training camp, and he came with myself and Joseph Deng to South Africa. So, you just build that community, and it becomes a team sport.
Talk to me about Joseph Deng. It's a good mate of yours, housemate, but you're like big time rivals. I find that interesting. You guys are like top of the sport here in Australia, but you're living together, training against each other, and it's like two fighters under the same roof, but then you're mates, right?
Yeah, only because think about it. Like in the 800, there's 48 people that can run it in the world. So 3 per country. So like me and Joseph, if we train together, there's still one spot there. It's not like we're fighting for one spot. There's 3 spots, and we believe that we should be able to get 2. So we're not really competing against each other. We're just helping each other get better. And how we get better is to compete against each other and push each other. So it just works out. And then plus, like Joseph is just as chilled as I am. So when we're out in Europe and we train, like some athletes just like to sit down and chill and all that stuff. Like Joseph would be like, yeah, how about we go out to the city? How about we go check out some other places and explore a little bit or something like that? He's a little bit relaxed, so it helps. And then like we went to South Africa together, traveled most of the world together right now. So it's pretty cool.
Do you get to
pretty cool to have that.
Well, yeah, that's right. Like, do you get to do that? Once you kind of start racing over in the circuit in Europe, do you get to, is it just train, race, or is there a bit of downtime and you get to enjoy yourself?
There's actually quite a bit of downtime just because the hardest training you do is right now in the off season. When you start to compete, it's just trying to be refreshed because you're not trying to too hard. You're trying to go into races fresh. So you have some time. So, we explore a lot of different cafes, different food, stuff like that. And then once the season's over, then we can like kind of go a little bit crazy and do whatever. We won't mention what crazy is.
Racing 2 a.m. Portugal females.
Right.
That's what we're talking.
Yeah. What does training look like for me? Like as someone who's not a runner, like are you just
Or an athlete?
Well, I'm athlete. I've played cricket, footy, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like we all know I'm an athlete.
He's got a trophy there.
That's actually.
Where's your? I don't see a trophy of yours.
I don't actually have one.
What does training look like? I assume it's not just running around a track, running 800 meters over and over and over again. Like, is there anything outside the ordinary that you're doing to help better your fitness or your, like, I don't know, hand-eye coordination, anything like that?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. It's valid. So I'll just tell you my week right now. So this week, ending Sunday, I'll probably average 50 Ks this week. So Monday was basically just a speed session. 2K warm up, 2K cool down, and then 5 times 50 meters, 2 times 150. Tuesday, that was the toughest one. I had 16 by 1 minute reps, and I was covering about 333 meters, so about 3-minute K pace, but off 30 seconds in the heat. So that one was pretty tough. And then Wednesday, Wednesday you go gym and you jog. So I had a recovery run, which is might not sound recovery to you guys, but it's 10K at 4 minutes. I think, at 4-minute K pace. Then Thursday was hills. I had about 12 times 35-second up the hill and jog back up. And Fridays, I have a day off, get a massage, and go to the gym. Saturdays is distance. So I've got 6 by 1K tomorrow. And Sundays is a day off. And that will take me to about 50K.
I've got so many questions, but like, what's the support team like? It is an individual sport, even though you got this team around, you got competitors and stuff. What sort of support team gets you through that? Because those sort of Ks, that sort of training, that's more than I certainly ever did as an elite, sports like footballer. And we had 50 support staff looking after us. Who have you got looking after you to get you back on the track every day?
Yeah, so I've got my coach, Justin Rinaldi. I've got my training partners. We call the Fast 8 Track Club. And as you guys know, Joseph Dang is one of them. I've got my manager who gets me into all the different races. Then I've got my strength conditioning coaches. So Chris. So we do all the strength stuff. And then we've also joined Pilates. So we've got a Pilates coach. And then also you've got your physios. So it's pretty big. Like it becomes like a massive team that no one really knows about because everyone sees you on the track by yourself.
I'm just going to put this out there. Where are you doing your Pilates at the moment, Pete? My wife owns a Pilates studio. We'd very happily have you whenever you would like, mate. Free of charge. You come use the facility. I'll give you a key.
I'll say no more. I'm at KX.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that. They've franchised themselves off, mate. We're a private, independently owned studio. Studio Equilibrio, mate. You got to do it. Come down, Pete, anytime. It's in Lathlane. It's right near West Coast. In Lathlane. Look, I'll sort the Uber out. I'll get a bus to your house. Don't worry, mate. We'll bring the whole crew over. Don't worry about it.
If we're just advertising our wives' businesses, do you ever order flowers, Pete? Because my wife's a florist. If you ever need something.
Say no more. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a wife at the moment, so I can't advertise anything to you guys.
But it sounds like you're looking. Now, all right, so
you're a smart man.
All right, well, we'll see what we can do here at BackChat for you. All right, let's bring this back. Money and sponsorships. Dan and I are both very keen to know, like athletics and other Olympic sports, they got a reputation for not paying well. Does it pay the bills? Yeah, what sort of level do you have to get to start signing some of these sponsorships?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. And it's quite tough for a lot of athletes, and it was tough for me earlier. But Joe and I were pretty lucky. We got sponsored by Adidas, Adidas International. So we had I don't know how many years, but it's been a few years already. So we're quite lucky in that regards. And then you can pick up some other brand stuff. But yeah, it's really tough for Australian athletes, just because one, like, no one knows when the races are going. Like, I think one of the questions was like, how did you prepare for races without crowds? I'm like, You just race in Australia. like there isn't no crowd. So like, I mean, where's the money going to come from and all that? So there's been a big issue about that for a while. So it had to be more than like, you got to just be so passionate about the sport earlier on. Otherwise, there's not much to keep you there. And because it's quite expensive, you got to go to Europe, compete against the best, where the money is there. But to get the money, you got to be in those races, and to get in those races, you got to be like top 10 in the world. So like in hands down, any sport in the world, like the big sports, if you're 10 in the world, you're making a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But in athletics, you're just trying to get into the races to make the money. So it's a bit different.
Yeah.
I've always heard this thing where Olympians don't make any money unless they medal. Like, I don't, like, how true is that? Is it a thing that, you're obviously you get to compete on the world stage, but in terms financially, is it only beneficial if you do make that podium?
That's honestly, I honestly don't even think you make money if you win. I think each country has their own. Like, I think maybe Australia's gold medal is like 50K or something like that. But I don't think. I think Olympics is really just a pride thing. And usually, if you're winning, you kind of have your own sponsors and stuff like that. Like the tennis players don't go there to make money, or the basketball players. They just win the medals for their countries and for themselves. It's like just kind of legacy thing. But it's funny because it's like one of the biggest event in the world. But it's just amateur. It's just like the NCAA, right? Athletes don't really make any money there.
Yeah.
Because they're still amateur.
But the colleges are making a heap of coin. Speaking of Olympics and medals, I've had this, I'd say it's somewhat controversial take on the high jump gold medal split. I'd love to get your take on that, because for me, like, a lot of people are saying, like, man, this encapsulates the spirit of the Olympics to have two men like go, you know what, we're just going to share this medal. For me, I was like, you know what, the spirit of Olympics would be we fight it out until we get a gold. What was your take on the gold medal split at the high jump?
Whatever Pete says here, I agree with. So whatever.
Yeah, okay, you know what?
Well, I think it's all perspective, right? I guess if I was in that position, I would honestly want to fight it out and see who wins gold. So in that regards, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
But for them, I think they're just pretty good friends and they wanted to share it. So which is completely legal. So they could do that and they did it. But and the crowd kind of liked it. I don't know. So what crowd? There wasn't any crowd. So a lot of people kind of like that. But I would want to fight it out. I mean, I was happy for them both having gold medal. But I definitely want to fight it out to see who kind of won.
Is there any such thing as a dead heat in a 800 meters? Like, they'll always find a winner, right? There's no such thing as a dead.
There was
heat.
heats in the swimming though, right? There was a few of them. There was like,
because it's touching a wall, whereas the 800's like all
a nose,
all body. they got the line.
Yeah, they always just watch those cameras and they give it to someone for those races. And the 800's never get that close.
Yeah, unless it's state final for me. It was actually dead heat in my state final. Yeah.
Are you about to talk 800 at the Olympics?
I am, yeah.
Because I just want to ask one.
Oh no! I want to talk Olympics, not Tokyo yet.
Yeah, no. I just want to ask a question about running.
Yeah, great.
So, in my small mind, I mean, we've discussed plenty of times. We're all athletes here, so we're all speaking amongst athletes. But for me, the 800 meters is just running the 400 meters twice. Is there any element of you where you think you could, like, how much faster do you need to go to compete in the 400?
Oh no, that's completely different. That's a completely different story.
I told
because right, I think at my best, if I train for 400, I think I could run like 45 low, which is not even the Olympic standard. So there's no point even trying to go to the 400. Maybe I'd have more luck in the 1500, but as you said, like, you want to fight. You don't want to go to Olympics just to be there as a passenger. Like, so you choose the event that you're more likely to make the final at. Like, I mean, to be honest, like, a lot of people were impressed with fourth and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I went home at the Olympic Village, I was disappointed. Like, you came fourth. Like, I mean, like, I think the worst two positions is probably fourth and second. Because second, you're so close to gold, and fourth, you're so close to a medal.
Yeah.
So there's still like major disappointments because as an athlete, you're performance based. You're like performance based. Like it's great to be like it's amazing experience, an amazing journey, and all that. But in reality, when you're sitting there by yourself, it's like, man, um, I still don't have a medal around my neck. Although that medal later on, it's like it's just a thing. Like that's intrinsic motivation. Um, it's just a thing later on, and then the experience matters more later on. Like when you're speaking to people about it and stuff like that, you speak about the journey. But at that moment, the medal matters.
Yeah, like do you feel like you're still lost, right?
Well, I did. I can't afford. I definitely lost.
How hard was it to sort of put on a happy face and just be, like you say all the right things, I'm just stoked to represent my country and be here. But, when your goal is to medal, like how tough was that for you, especially, interviewing TV straight after a race?
Well, my interview saying those things is like what you felt at the moment, and especially like you express gratitude to the people that stood there for you, which is for me was my support team and everyone, and then like through the rounds was like Australia was getting around it, so like of course like you gotta show gratitude and everything because like you still gotta be a good loser, and you can't take anything away from the winners either. Like you're not gonna be mad like like as if you lost by accident. Like those guys were just bet on the day. Like you got to be realistic with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Those guys just got the job done. Like the Kenyans came 1-2, and the Polish guy they got the job done when it matters. And then because like I went to Europe a few weeks later, and I think it was all over the news that I beat the Polish guy. Like it doesn't matter. Like you beat him 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. You need to beat him on the day because that's what it counts for. Like on the day on that time. But like I wasn't putting any face. Like at that moment, I was still proud that I finished that race, and I put myself like because I was at peace because I raced the way I wanted to race. It's just they were just better. That was it. Like, and I think people find that hard because you sound like you're defeated, but like if that's what it is, then that's what it is. Like they were just better on the day, but it's still I was proud of the way I raced because I put myself in a place to win, and I wanted to win, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. But then like the other part of it is like, man, like there were so many people behind you, and how much hype it created back home. So like, man, we're grateful for that. We're so thankful for that, and we're thankful for athletics doesn't get that much attention. So to bring that much attention to athletics is awesome. And then like to see your family out there celebrating and stuff like that, like you won a medal, it's pretty cool.
What did the effect of Rio? So Rio Olympics 2016. You experience what the Olympics is all about, right? Well, traditionally all about, you got the Olympic Village with people in it. You got crowds cheering you on. You qualified for that and went over there and raced and probably didn't go well. I mean, listening to you speak about coming fourth in the Olympics, I assume you wouldn't have been happy getting knocked out in the heats of the Olympics in 2016. How did that experience kind of leave you?
Oh, man, I was sad.
Yeah.
I think I gained like 4-5 kgs at the Olympics, especially because it was my first games and you just kind of try to maximize on everything, like capitalize on all the experiences. And I told this story a few times. Like generally, you're not too excited about food. Like it is what it is. But when it's free, damn man, you just you just kind of go hard. Like when like think because like put yourself in my position. Like 5 years and I made the Olympic team. So I didn't make any Australian team, no juniors, nothing. That was the first time to wear the Australian singlet, and I was straight away into the Olympics. And I've never been to any other championships. So like getting excited about like things like free food and like haircuts, getting 3 haircuts, although my hair was short, all those stuff, and getting excited to meet like I see you were in Golden State there, like Clay Thompson, meeting him, Usain Bolt, and all that stuff. You just kind of go crazy as a 22-year-old. You just kind of like, whoa, like damn. And then like I think there was an experience where Patty Mills comes up to me and like he's so nice and introduces himself and says, "Welcome to the team," and that, and I'm like, why is this guy introducing himself? Like I know who he is. like what is he doing? So like of course in that moment, like you're still disappointed, but you probably underperformed, not because of fitness, just because there's that energy you got to maintain pretty like optimal. And then like when you're getting excited about food, your energy is going too high, and you kind of got to just be like in the middle and like getting excited about all these things. And and whatnot. I was pretty disappointed getting out of the heat, especially like running, what was it, like a 149 or something like that. It was ridiculous. Like I was just not happy, and I just partied it out and did the normal things, and came home like 5 kgs heavier. But you look back and you're like, man, this is my first Olympics. Not too bad.
So you don't look back on it with like, lost opportunity. You kind of used it as all right, this is probably what I need to tighten up next time around. Because I mean, it clearly worked. 5 years later at Tokyo.
Nah, definitely not a lost opportunity because the opportunity was being there. Um, and to be like realistically, I didn't make it out the heat, so it's not like I missed out a medal. Like I wasn't even close to a medal. I was out just in the heat. There was no semifinals. Maybe if I was in the finals, like damn, like I was close to a medal. Like now it's like damn because I was close to a medal. But back then, I was just there. I was literally a passenger, and I was excited to be a passenger.
Do you subscribe to the? I mean, Will I know doesn't, but the you got to lose one to win one sort of notion. Like, do you use that then? Like, okay, 2021, sort of lost one. The next one is your chance.
Um, yeah, as I said, like I think it's all language, right? Because like you can plan as much as you want, and like there's also good intentions in planning and setting goals, but I mean you still got to put it together on the day. And the reality is, I set myself goals before, and I didn't rock up to the start line. Like our sport is pretty tough. Like when it cuts only to 3 people, and I think that's what I pride myself for, being consistently being able to make teams. Because it's pretty hard to make teams. You got to be consistently top three. And like think about it, you can't be sick on the day of Olympic trials. You can't have a bad day. So like consistently making teams is people should be rewarded for, because it's hard. It's only 3 people that make it, and then if you can consistently make it every year, and those that consistently medal at the major championships, then like they're the goats. Like they're figured it out, like mentally, physically. They just do something well. You don't know how to define it. You don't know what it is, but they just figured it out, and you can see they just the way they move and everything they do is just like it's just beautiful.
Did you ever race against David Radesha?
I did actually in Perth. The first time I raced
Oh.
against him was in Perth, and I came second to him. And I was like running around 146, and this guy was jogging like 144.
This guy's like, I don't know, man. Like anyone who's listening or watching, just go and Google 2012 London Olympics 800-meter final. It's so every man in that race ran a PB, season best. Like country's best. There was like 5 national records broken in it. He broke the world record, first man to go under 141, and it's commonly called the greatest race of all time. And this guy is like absolutely killing it. He's like the proper GOAT. So running in his stride, like what did it feel like?
What? Just quickly, what time did you run on the 400? Because you ran 153. So what time was your one?
Like never went under 50. So yeah.
So that's the crazy thing, right? David Radesha ran 49 first lap, and then he closed in 51.
It's crazy.
So without stopping. So it was like a 2 400 thing.
Yeah. It's
like running in his stride back then, it was probably like he's just too fast. Like I think I needed to be running in his stride around now, where I'm a lot fitter. At least I'm a 144, so he can push me a little bit further. But before that, man, I was always too far behind, like 5-10 meters behind, because he's just too far ahead. But it's just being in the same race as him is awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
But the worst thing is you, as an athlete, they say like mentally you gotta go into every race thinking you're gonna win. But like what if you know you're not gonna win? Like because like you're racing David Radesha, like there's all right, I'm gonna try to come second today. Like that's a bad thought to have, but that's reality.
But he would never have. Yeah, it's an interesting concept because like people say this all the time in footy, like like why are you guys even going out there? You're not gonna win, but there's still opportunity. David Radesha, you're not beating him. Don't even worry about it. Just fucking back it up. All right. Tokyo Olympics. I think like for anyone out there outside of athletic circles, it's probably your big step up to I guess the limelight. We've spoken a bit about what the experience of Rio gave you, which, you know, by the sounds of it, wasn't a lost opportunity. It was something you just kind of, you know, used along the journey. How was Tokyo different? Like, I'm assuming the setup was different COVID-wise and Olympic Village-wise. Did it feel like the Olympics, given what you experienced in Rio?
Yeah and no. I mean, the good thing about Tokyo, because there's so much restrictions. Like I felt like connection kind of went up because with not much to do, everyone kind of relied on each other. So like the Australian team was way stronger than they were in Tokyo because like we'd all get around each other's events, we'd all sit down, have coffee because that's all you could really do. There's like I think if it was like a normal Olympics, then you'd have people leaving the village doing this, exploring and stuff like that. But the Australian team was so close during the Olympics, and like we got along pretty well. Like watching everyone's races, watching the boxing, Harry Garside, watching the basketball and the girls on the beach volleyball. So like it was awesome atmosphere in that regards. But I guess it was different in a way that uh, the stadiums were quite empty. There was no one there, and then but still you just had to go out there and perform. Like you just had a job to do. Like you couldn't worry about it, and you had an extra year to kind of figure that out. And we already knew there was no crowds and stuff like that.
What was it true? The beds were made out of cardboard. Was that true?
There were, but I think there was so many rumors why they were made out of cardboards. But I don't think that's true because these
Did you
beds,
test that
these
out,
beds
or?
were no. If you think about it, right? These beds were designed and made before COVID hit. So like they were designed way before that. So,
Were they
yeah.
comfortable?
Man, I performed all right. So so I think they were pretty comfortable.
All right, so you run your heat, run it really well, goes well. Coming into the semi, first semi in the Olympic Games. How you feeling? Because spoiler alert, Pete goes on and wins the semi final and runs the Australian record. So you must have been feeling okay. How did it feel that day, the semi final?
I honestly woke up that day because like the first thought I think with many people is like shit, he's ran too fast. He's because you get to wake up and run again. Like not just ran fast. I've ran my fastest time ever and broke Australian record in the heat. So you got to go back the next day
Yeah.
and run again. So I think maybe there's a little bit of concern. I was a little bit maybe worried, and then I woke up that next morning, and I just woke up and I was like, damn, I think I can run 144 again today. I just felt like I never ran the day before, and then I went there and I warmed up. I was like, no, I could really run 144. So when I stood at the start line, I was just kind of smiling. I was like, man, I can't wait for this gun to go, because my body feels like unreal. Like you know through the warm up, you're just bouncing. You feel sharp. You feel fast, and just everything's going right. So you just kind of knew it.
Is it body or mind then? Like, I'm assuming you've been as fit as you were and done what you've done for a lot now. You talk about muscle memory. Your body knows what to do. Is it mind or body?
It's mind, and then the mind is impacted by small things. Like if you have a niggle, then the mind goes kind of crazy. If you're sore, the mind kind of it's like, oh man, I don't know if I could do a fast pace and all that stuff. But like, and then that's why the body's important too. If the body's super healthy and you feel fresh, then the mind it helps the mind as well. So yeah, so I just felt like I didn't run, and I felt like I was pretty fresh. So it helped me take all that focus from my body, like nothing's gonna go wrong, and just kind of be present and focus on the race. And hands down, like the best races you ever race is those races you're not thinking about anything. It's just muscle memory. You just go out there and race because in our sports, if you're thinking about making a move, someone's probably already made it. Like I've raced some races where I'm thinking like, all right, now I've got to go, and I tried to go, someone's already made it. It's like you just gotta kind of make it.
After you ran that semi, I know in sports like basketball, footy, there's a lot of tape watching. You know, you watch the game or you watch who you're about to verse next week. Do you then go back and watch that race, or is it sort of like, okay, that race is done, like I can't learn from that, or do you go back and then sort of build on that?
I actually I watched this heat, and then I watched the semi. So I watched all my races, and I love listening to Bruce, man. He,
So you watch it with the commentary?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got to, bro.
So good.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there. I was literally sitting there in my cardboard bed. I'm like, damn, this race is so much exciting watching it than being in the stadium because they have the noise control and Bruce is talking because you can't hear any of that while you're running.
Yeah.
You're just literally running 2 laps, and then when you're watching, you're like, man, that's exciting.
So that race, like I watched it again, just prepping, just because I just sit around and watch 800-meter runs all the time. So I watched that race, and like that was the perfect race. Tactically, you're able to sit on someone, kind of opened up with 150 to go, and you kind of hit the lead and held it to the end. It was as you would want to run an 800-meter race, right? You almost had a bit of a pacemaker, good pace for the race, but that was pretty different for your final, right? Before we get to the final, so you felt good coming in the heat, felt good coming in the semi, couple of Australian records. Are you waking up day of the final? Okay, here we go. Here's 3 from 3.
Waking up for the final was a bit different because it was like a moment like after the semis. It was like, oh shit. And I say that because we knocked out the 2 front runners, and like the final had not a single front runner. It's like, oh shit, this race is gonna be slow.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna lead this race. It's just gonna be slow. And if you leave it too slow, you can't be in the middle because that's where you trip up.
Yeah.
You can't be at the back because you're racing against the best people in the world. You can't give them head starts, and you don't want to be at the front because you're taking all the win. So now you're just thinking about too many things, like that you weren't thinking about it before. Like if you're sitting behind someone, it's just like it's automatic. If the race is fast, it's automatic. It's going to be fast. But when you knock out all the front runners and then you see through the bell is like 50, whatever that lap was, because the first
53 and a half. It's good.
53 is like, man, like that's a slow race.
So
like,
you hit the lead with. So this is in the final, Dan. Pete hits the
I've
lead.
watched it many times.
He hits the lead with like 50 to go in the first lap, about 600, 550 to go. Was that in the plan?
Yeah, I think it was. It was. I just didn't want to get boxed in and get in trouble. I think the only thing I would do differently is take the lead and just trust in yourself. Like with saying that is you don't need to go out from that far out. I think I went out from like 400 or something. You can hold it back because you're holding everyone back. Like you're at the front. Just hold it, and just keep picking it up as people get closer to you.
Did you think you could match the kick with the rest of the runners? Like did you have as much speed as the rest of the race if you had have held it back?
Yeah, I was pretty confident in Tokyo, so I just thought like, man, whatever happens, and whatever comes my way, I'll be able to handle it. But like, what we were speaking about 400s before, and I said no, I wouldn't do 400 because at my best I'd probably be able to run 46, 45, right? The guy that won the race, he runs 44 seconds. Like there's no one beating him in a kickdown in a slow race because he's got all his energy there. So especially when he's at the front, and he was like right on my shoulder. He was in the best position, and he was the fastest 400-meter runner. So like, he's gonna win that race. Like, there's no brainer there because he's got the fastest kick, and he's got the fastest 400 times. So there's a few things to work on there, but like, it's just headache. You don't want to be thinking about that during the race.
What did you think when you're coming down? There's 50 meters to go. You're leading the race with 100 to go, and 3 guys come past you. And you had a look around. You actually looked. Don't know if you've watched the race back, but you have a look kind of behind you and next to you, which you hadn't really done in the other races. Well, what do you think?
Yeah.
What are you thinking there with 50 to go? Like, what's in your mind other than
like,
this hurts so much?
I was like, oh shit! Another 4 years or 3 years to try again.
Yeah, I kind of like, I actually like never spoken to you before, but like your attitude just, it seems like you're able to brush things off pretty quickly.
Because like we spoke about it before, it's like I wouldn't be having these opportunities if it wasn't for sports, right? That's why I've got the podcast in my spikes, because like at the end of the day, like although I want to win, like let's think about the other part of it, like just being able to have that opportunity to be at the Olympics and travel the world and do all these things. It's like that's why you gotta kind of. It's like it's not like I don't care. It's just that it just keeps you more at peace. It's like man, we're here because of this. So like, at least let's be happy that we're here. I know we lost, but but like, what can you do? Like honestly, what can you do? Like, you can't change it.
So what's next for Pete Bowl?
Getting some flowers and a party session.
Very good. About the race. One quick one for you. What does it sound like when you? I mean, obviously it's different when you're running with a crowd, but when you're not, like a guy's saying any. Like, I imagine it's all pretty business. As you know, people aren't really chatting. It's not like Tour de France where like guys are having conversations mid race. But are you just like you're hearing people panting? Is it like does any of that sort of throw you off, or are you just so in your race that you're not even paying attention to any of that?
Nah, you're just so in your race, and if you're not, you're probably losing the race. And if you can talk, then that's extra energy. And even like pushing and stuff like that, like it takes so much energy to push people around. So you probably prefer not to get in trouble. And the worst part of the 800 is the first 200 when everyone cuts in, like because if you try to cut in when someone is there, someone will push you out the way. You might trip over. It takes energy. It takes time, and athletics is all about time. You don't want to lose any time.
Unless you don't know that you're allowed to cut in like you did back when you were
Stay in lane too. Stay in your lane, man.
Okay.
I still won that race.
Of course you did, mate. You're the fucking Australian champion. What about pre-game? Like, what about they'd have you in a holding bay of some description before they bring you out onto the Aths track? Like Tokyo, they had the big like unveil where it was like a movie stars entering the arena. Is there any trash talk back there? Is there any talk, or is everyone just in their own world?
Nah, there's like, I don't think running's not the one people just trash talk because it's over in like 2 minutes. But I think maybe more you see it maybe more with the sprinters. It's funny because that's actually shorter. Because like 9 seconds for the guys, and now the girls running like 10.5, which is insane. But with the distance guys, like, we're generally all pretty good friends. You got to be friends because you're running that many miles and kilometers per week. You got to use people and train with them. So, you know, when you're overseas, you train with your competitors and join together. So we tend to be friends. While the sprinters don't really tend to be that friendly to each other sometimes. But the 800 guys are pretty cool. No trash talk. And if someone trash talks me, I'll honestly just laugh. I think it'll just be funny. Like, it's not a fight. Like, it's like you're 61 kgs. You're about to go around 800 meters.
What did you think of the fanfare around the 100-meter sprint? Like that, you know how they had all the lights and the lanes all lit up. Are you seeing that going like, come on, give us some of that as well? Or are you just putting it down to like 100-meter egos and stuff?
I guess because the 100 meters is like, you're crowned like the fastest man in the world, and like with the history and Usain Bolt and like, I mean, look at our 100-meter guy sprinter like Ron Browning, like that was exciting just to watch, and you know, I wish, imagine if he made the final, it would have like everyone would have been watching that final. It would have been unreal just for him to win that semi, not a heat, and just look around. It's like, damn, like that's awesome. Like that's the swag of the 100 meters. Like I can't envy that. Like let them eat, let them be, let them do themselves. So it's that type of energy, you know.
It's like the forward line, Dan. It's the forwards. They just got to kick the goals. They got to go get their hair cut nicely. They got to get a bit of meat.
They gotta do whatever they can, man.
What
it's
about
part of it?
Well, what about Paris? Paris is 3 years away. When does the prep start for them? Like, I know the answer's like, oh, prep starts now, you know, come off the track. But when do you actually start prepping for that, like those races? Is it 6 months out? Is it 18 months out? When's that all begin?
Well, because Paris is like, I guess, long-term goal because it's 3 years away. But like next year we've got Commonwealth Games. So you just kind of focus on that. And preparation tends to be the same anyways. So you focus on, because World Champs is just as important as the Olympics. It's the same people
to you? What's the most important to you?
Probably the Olympic Games. so Paris is pretty important.
Yeah.
But like while you're preparing for Paris,
the bills.
Yeah, you got to do the World Champs, and it'd be nice winning World Champ. Like it would be just as tough. The only difference with World Champs and Olympics is that World Champs is just athletics. So literally it's just in the village with different type of athletes, but you're still competing against the same people at the world champs and at the Olympics. So they're just as important, in my opinion. And so we got that next year. We got Commonwealth next year. The following year we got world champs again, and then the following year we got Paris. So it's like big 3 years. And if you can come home with medals, like that would be pretty sick.
Yeah, bloody oath it was. You're living in Melbourne. Is Perth home? Is this where you'll end up?
Yeah, eventually I think I'll move back to Perth. But I quite like Melbourne. It's cool lifestyle. It's nice. It's not too hot. Like tomorrow is 36 degrees, and I'm like negotiating with my coach. Like, should I be training? It's like it's pretty hot. While Melbourne is pretty cool, you can do a lot more distance running. It's easier over here. Although the benefit is training in the heat, you do get fit pretty fast. You just gotta not cook yourself, and you know.
Where are you training while you're here at Perth?
What time and day? So I'm going to come race.
I actually train with Abra. So if anyone wants to go train with him, we train hills up in, is it Claremont? Robert Hill? Is that Perry Lakes?
Yep.
Sometimes I train at Langford Oval. Sometimes I train at Thornley. I'm all over the place, just mixing it up, not to get bored.
You got anything else for Pete?
I've just been loving it.
When's the next big one? Is it Birmingham? Is that where Commonwealth Games is?
Yeah, Birmingham. But 2 weeks before that is World Champs, so that's first.
How's that work? So 2 weeks apart, you got Birmingham and World Champs 2 weeks apart. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what? You just do like a big block of work and then and try to run well for a 3 week period, kind of thing.
My understanding is you focus. Although Commonwealth Games it's a lot more hype around it in Australia, but World Champs is the important one. Commonwealth Games is not, because not every country is part of the Commonwealth, so you're missing a lot of different countries.
When you're traveling around, do you get to watch any footy? Do you get to watch West Coast go at it?
Yeah, sometimes I watch, but mostly when I'm in Melbourne, I get to watch a few of the games. I actually haven't watched a game in Perth. A while ago maybe, but not recently.
I think we should do BackChat with Pete BOL live at a game. If you're ever in town and we're in town, we're taking you a game.
Oh, we're definitely going to be in town.
Yeah, we'll be
do
here.
it.
I won't be running anywhere.
Let's do it.
Yeah, unreal, mate.
And I want to see Will's 800 meters in action.
I still maintain. Yeah, I've got a tape of it. We can watch it after this.
I want to see it in real life. You versus Pete.
I'm not going to beat Pete now. I might have beaten him when I was 17 years old. He said it. He's the one who said it. 206. I was 153.
But as I said yesterday doesn't matter. A few minutes doesn't matter. It's like right now that matters.
All right.
Right now.
All right. I'll race you in an 800 meter race. Right. Okay. Let's do that. And then
we'll do handicap. We'll do handicap, right?
No. And then we can play a game of footy. You play, I play, and we'll see who can get the, we'll have
best average.
Yeah, a few bumps, a few tackles. See how you hold up against that big boy.
I'll just scissor kick you and go the ball.
I don't doubt it. You're dunking in school. Pete, we got to wrap this up, mate. But seriously, absolute pleasure. The best guest we'll ever have on. I'm so good to interview you, mate, and such a great attitude. Thanks so much for your time, mate.
No, thanks a lot, boys. Thanks for having me, and look forward to meeting you guys in person.
When you get this going, In Your Spikes is your podcast, right? When you got a bit more time, let's do this again. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you about my running ability, so you can interview me about running. That'll be good.
I'm here for cricket, basketball, whatever. I can do anything. Just I got stories.
And I'm gonna send you my address, and I need some flowers.
Yes. Oh, man. Thanks, Pete. You're a legend. Thank you so much.